Münster.
Welcome to Münster. Just what is typical of this city? Is it the imposing cathedral, the venerable churches, and the dignified patrician houses? Or the Gothic town hall, with its historical legacy of the Peace of Westphalia? Or perhaps rather the exuberant atmosphere, the many young faces everywhere in the streets and cafes, and the multitude of bicycles? Münster, an old city or a young one? Actually, it's the wrong question, because it's precisely this contrast, this excitement, which gives the city its unmistakable flair. It's a Hansa city and a cathedral city with over 1,200 years of rich tradition. At the same time, it's an academic city with a large student population. All this makes Münster unique among Germany's large cities. A rich history and today's vibrant culture, both interlinked in everyday life in the city, are what you can experience at first hand here. For example, a trendy pub located within medieval walls, Picasso's art in a Westphalian courtyard, or the gems of Baroque master builders side by side with icons of contemporary architecture. Münster's charm and beauty feed on this interplay.
Stadtweinhaus.
This 14th century Gothic building with its characteristic gable is Münster's landmark. It was almost completely destroyed in the war, but was rebuilt in the 1950s as a near replica through private initiative taken by the business community and with the help of donations made by the people of Münster. The Stadtweinhaus next door dates from 1615, and it was here that the city scales and wine stores were kept in earlier times. Decisions taken by the city council and the courts used to be announced from the balcony, under the city's coat of arms. The square behind the town hall is named after the Peace of Westphalia, the basic principle of which, tolerance through dialogue, is recalled by the bronze benches created by Eduardo Chillida.
Friedenssaal.
Hall of Peace. The most important room in the historic town hall. The Spanish-Dutch peace treaty was ratified here, in what was then the council chamber, on May 15, 1648, and this marked the birth of the Netherlands as a country. A few months later, on October 24th, the Peace of Westphalia was signed here and in Osnabrück, bringing the 30 Years' War to an end. The portraits of the sovereigns and of the most important emissaries are a reminder of this event of European significance. The Hall of Peace, preserved in its original state, can be viewed from Tuesday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and on Saturday, Sunday, and public holidays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., except when official events are taking place.
Prinzipalmarkt.
Principal Markt. This is the heart of the historic Hansa city. From the 12th century onwards, merchants and traders built their houses in this area, adjacent to the cathedral, and sold their wares under the arcades. This collection of 48 arched houses with their Gothic or Renaissance gables was largely destroyed in the World War II, but they were rebuilt on the basis of their old forms, some as exact replicas, some in a simplified, modern style. This today is where a large part of the city's life takes place. This is not only where visiting heads of state are received and festivities are held, but also where people take a stroll, go shopping, and enjoy life.
St. Paulus Dom.
St. Paulus Dom, Cathedral. Over 1,200 years ago, Liger, missionary to the Saxons, built a first monastery on the hill around which the city of Münster subsequently grew up. The cathedral began to take on its present-day form from 1225. Late Romanesque architecture with Gothic additions, built mainly of Baumberg sandstone. One of the specialties inside the cathedral is the astronomical clock dating from the 16th century with its daily chimes and the 3 revolving magi, Monday to Saturday, 12, noon, Sunday, and public holidays 12:30 p.m. In front of the cathedral is the traditional weekly market, Wednesdays and Saturdays, 7 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., considered to be one of the finest in Germany.
Lamberti-Kirche.
This late Gothic hall church dating back to the 14th, 15th centuries forms one end of Prinzipelmarkt. This is where Cardinal von Galen, the so-called Lion of Münster, preached his courageous sermons criticizing the Nazis. On the church tower, 3 iron cages have been preserved in which the bodies of the Anabaptist leaders were displayed in the mid-16th century to act as a warning to the population. Above this is the room of the tower keeper. Every evening, except Tuesday, the tower keeper blows her horn every half hour until midnight. First mentioned in documents in 1481, the tower keeper's job was originally to stand guard and watch out for fires. Originally the seat of the Merchants' Guild, this is one of the oldest guild houses, 1589. The Dutch emissary stayed here during the negotiations of the Peace of Westphalia. Netherlands House, since 1995, an academic and cultural center unique in Germany.
Stadtbücherei.
City Library. This postmodern building dating from 1993 is considered to be an especially successful example of contemporary architecture, Bowles-Wilson, in an historical environment. The narrow street between the two parts of the building extends the longitudinal axis of St. Lamberti Church.
Dominikanerkirche.
This brick building, 1705 to 1725, Lambert Friedrich von Corfy, with its Baroque sandstone facade and octagonal dome harks back to Roman basilicas. The building is a popular venue for concerts and is well known for its especially fine acoustics.
What a wicked thing to say, made me feel this way. What a wicked thing to do, never dreamed of it. What a wicked thing to say, made me feel this way. What a wicked thing to do, never dreamed of it. What a wicked thing to say. Never felt this way, no.
Erbdrostenhof.
Together with Clemenskirch Church and the Dominikanerkirche Church, the Erbdrostenhof, architect Johann Conrad Schlon's masterpiece, built between 1753 and 1757, forms the so-called Baroque island in the middle of the city. Unusually, Münster's finest aristocratic residence stands diagonally on a rectangular site. Today, it is the seat of the Landschaftsverband Westfalen-Lippe, LWL. Visits are only possible on official occasions.
Clemenskirche.
This round central building with its dome and lantern on top is another of Schlon's main works. Built between 1745 and 1753, it was once part of the monastery and the hospital of the Brothers of Mercy, a popular church for weddings, also because of its magnificent interior equipped by South German artists in the Rococo style. The Baroque garden next to the church is an oasis of tranquility in the hustle and bustle of city life.
Sankt Servati-Kirche.
Built around 1230 with late Romanesque and early Gothic elements. Highlights are the late Gothic choir and the winged altar dating back to around 1500. Of historical interest, it was here that the Anabaptist theologian Bernhard Rothman first preached inside the city walls. Synagogue. The history of Jewish life in Münster goes back to the 12th century. After the Jewish community was almost completely annihilated during the Nazi period, the new synagogue was inaugurated in 1961 on the site of the old one that had been destroyed.
Promenade.
Promenade. Today, a traffic-free road round the old town and lined with linden trees. The promenade was built on the site of the old city walls. It is both a 5 kilometers green belt for the city and also an important thoroughfare for anyone out and about on foot or by bicycle. Münster's largest flea market is held here 5 times a year between Schlossplatz and Aasee, Lake Aasee.
Bouregreg.
Stepped Hall Church built around 1173, with late Romanesque tower, Gothic choir, and west towers added in the 19th century. The Marian Saul, column with the Virgin Mary, built in 1899 as a gift from a patron of the arts, is the little sister of the original to be found in Munich.
Picasso-Platz.
Picasso-Platz, Picasso Square. The pattern on the square opposite the Pablo Picasso Museum might strike pedestrians as being a bit odd, but a bird's-eye view, even just from the museum's upper floor, provides the solution. Picasso's head, after a famous picture of him by the photographer Robert Capa, is reproduced in precise detail in the paving stones on the square.
Das Pflaster gelegt worden ist, gab es die erste Überlegung, hat ja auch ganz viele freien Oberkörper gemalt. Er hat das in Frankreich gelegt.
Aasee Path. Follow Münster's river as it winds its idyllic way through an area full of history. At the foot of Cathedral Hill, between University Institutes and past Petrokirch Church, to the old ford which marks the beginnings of Münster as a town. Passage at Spiegelturm is closed in the evening.
Petrikirche.
Basilica with 3 naves dating back to the time between the Gothic and early Renaissance periods. Richly decorated north portal. Originally a Jesuit church, today the church school of the Paulinum Grammar School. On one side of the path, Ulrich Ruckriem's sculpture Dolomit, Suggestion.
Liebfrauen-Überwasser-kirche.
Hall Church dating back to around 1340, with the largest Gothic church tower in Westphalia. The name, Overwater Church, is derived from its location. On the other side of the river Aasee, over the water, looking from the cathedral, the church formed the kernel of a suburb with its own jurisdiction. Diocesan Library. With 700,000 volumes, 680 magazines on permanent subscription, and countless valuable old manuscripts, this is the largest theological library north of the Alps. The particularly successful contemporary architecture, 2005, Max Dudler, provides an extension to, and a contrast with, the historic ensemble of Überwasser-kirche and seminary. Saldus Antiquarian Bookshop. This is regularly transformed into the Wilsberg Bookshop for a popular German TV series involving Münster's most famous private detective and antiquarian bookseller, George Wilsberg, who sells his customers rarities and classics of world literature. When he's not pursuing criminals.
Kuhviertel.
Famous for its traditional student pubs and cozy restaurants, and for art. Whether it's Münster's first academic beer establishment, the Kveet, or the Pincus Muller Brewery with its dark beer, a lot of pubs here could tell a tale or two. Art galleries and original shops are as much a part of the quarter's flair as the street booksellers market in the summer. Schloss, Residenz, und Botanischer Garten, Botanical Garden. Built by J.C. Schlon between 1767 and 1787 as a Baroque residence for a prince-bishop, it is today the seat of the university's administration, and thus the center of the academic city of Münster. The park behind it, with its splendid collection of old trees, contains the University Botanical Garden. Over 200 years old and an ideal place for dreaming, discovering and relaxing, admission-free.
Kiepenkerl Memorial.
Kiepenkerl Memorial, one of the Münsterland's landmarks. The Kiepenkerl was an itinerant trader with a traditional basket on his back. With a short linen smock and a red neck scarf, cap, pipe and gnarled walking stick, he was responsible for both goods and news being exchanged between town and country. The memorial has stood here since 1896. After being destroyed in the war, it was rebuilt as an exact replica of the original in 1953.
Apostelkirche.
First purely Gothic church in Münster, around 1270. Franciscan church for more than 500 years. Important vault paintings, 15th to 17th centuries, and 3 fully preserved bells from Amsterdam dating back to 1675. In 1840, it was transferred to the Protestant congregation as a garrison church, making it the oldest Protestant church in Münster. Museums and sculptures, art, history, and more. Careful you don't trip over a work of art, because in Münster a significant amount of art and culture takes place in public, but also of course in more than 30 museums in the city. From the golden treasures of the Middle Ages to Picasso's graphic work and the latest from the art world, from local history to lacquer art from the Far East. There's a great variety of things waiting for you to discover. This monument remembers to the time from 1945 to 1990 as Germany was divided into 2 parts. These 2 parts were reunioned on October 3, 1990. The monument, designed by Annie Buschkotter, stands in Münster, North Rhine-Westphalia, and has been built by Peter Buescher-Plussohn in 1960 as a sign for inseparability.
Der Zwinger.
The Zwinger in the city of Münster is part of the old city fortifications from the early modern period. In the Nazi era, it was both a jail and a Gestapo place of execution and was heavily damaged by Allied air raids. Since its conversion to a memorial, the Zwinger has belonged to the Münster City Museum, Stadtmuseum Münster, and is home to the sculpture. Just a 15-minute walk from the famous Prinzipalmarkt, the banks of the Aasee stretch out. The 2,300 m long lake is an indispensable local recreation area for the people of Münster, and a blue-green oasis in the cityscape of Münster for visitors. Its paths come alive with joggers, cyclists and inline skaters, and walkers who simply want to let the wind blow around their noses. In fine weather, countless sailing boats share the waters with almost as many pedal boats. Blankets are spread out on the green areas. People eat together, talk, and laugh a lot. No one can escape the relaxed atmosphere on a beautiful summer evening. No wonder that the restaurants and cafes with lake views are also very popular. giant pool balls. One of the most succinct quotations on the subject of art in public spaces comes from Claes Oldenburg's 1961 Ode to Possibilities. I am for an art that does something other than sit on its ass in a museum. This is precisely what he achieved with his contribution to the first sculptor project in Münster in 1977. His giant pool balls went from being one of the most controversial works to one of the city's most iconic landmarks. They interact with the city's history, which is shaped by numerous armed conflicts. Not far away, a historic cannonball can still be seen in the city wall today. At the same time, the flat grassy areas around Aasee allow the space to be interpreted as a large billiard table. There, you can find 3 balls arranged to correspond to an actual game that the artist played. Although monumental and static, they create the impression of a game in motion and have already enticed many critics to attempt to roll them into the lake in vain. They remain on the grass along the Aasee as a constant reference to the notion that one's own personal standards are always relative and as a playful and graceful call for a change in perspective.